Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, John Haynes, A Conversation with Death. A man who rules the world and the angel of darkness take on a horde of demons in this inaugural John Haynes series adventure. Get John Haynes, A Conversation with Death for 99 cents on Kindle or in paperback today. When I take a critical look at your messy Jesse Williams hot mess, it's got all the makings of a great comedy. And the reason why it's got all the makings of a great comedy is because everything that happened to create messy Jesse Williams' hot mess is all unintentional. Now, your messy Jesse Williams was told by the court that he would have to pay $100,000 in spousal support for his two biracial children, and this is in addition to the $50,000 a month in spousal support he has to pay for his wife. Now, your messy Jesse Williams wouldn't have to pay any support at all to his wife and his children if he had not created a hot mess for himself by getting caught up in the fantasy of Hollywood. Now, your messy Jesse Williams hot mess started a couple of years ago when your messy Jesse Williams thought he had arrived in Hollywood. Now, your messy Jesse Williams was one of these biracial, light-skinned Afro-American Negro actors who starred on Shonda Rhimes' Grey's Anatomy. And because your messy Jesse Williams had this creamy white skin and those crystal blue eyes, your Shonda Rhimes decided to cast him on her nighttime soap, Grey's Anatomy. Your Shonda Rhimes thought because your messy Jesse Williams had these creamy white skin and crystal blue eyes that the Afro-American Negro females would lose their minds once they saw this handsome, biracial, Afro-American Negro actor on screen, and that would lead to the big ratings. Now, Hollywood probably also thought that your messy Jesse Williams was probably going to be the next big star. And because they thought your messy Jesse Williams was going to be the next big star, they probably thought they could give him a push. And part of giving him a push was crafting an image around your messy Jesse Williams that fit a narrative for the black community to rally around and get behind your messy Jesse Williams. And that started when they decided to give your messy Jesse Williams a BET Minstrel Award for humanitarianism. And nothing in Hollywood is done unless there's a plan to do some sort of push. And this is something that the Negro doesn't understand regarding many of these award shows. Many of these award shows are not about merit, they're all about popularity, and they're all about trying to push someone to a higher level of popularity in Hollywood. And your messy Jesse Williams receiving that BET Humanitarian Award on their minstrel show, the BET Minstrel Awards, was all about giving Jesse Williams that push that would take him to the next level. Now, as your messy Jesse Williams decided to run up on stage to make a speech regarding winning this BET Minstrel Award, he looked into the camera with his crystal blue eyes, and as the black community got mesmerized by those crystal blue eyes and that creamy white skin, they listened to him say all the right things that the Negro wanted to hear. He sat there and talked about Michael Brown being shot by Darren Wilson. He talked about Tamir Rice. He talked about Black Lives Matter. And many of the Afro-American Negroes, as they were spellbound by your messy Jesse Williams' creamy white skin and his crystal blue eyes, they believed everything that he said, and they believed that your messy Jesse Williams was a real brother who was out to look out for the community because he had worked in the community as a teacher and he was married to a black wife at the time. Now, as a guy who worked in nonprofit almost 18 years ago, I knew everything that your messy Jesse was saying was absolute hot garbage. And the reason why I knew everything he was saying was absolute hot garbage is because I heard people at the nonprofit I worked at say many of the exact same things and craft many of the exact same images to deceive the public to believe that this was about helping out the black community and that these people were real brothers in the community. When in actuality, it was all about them using the black community as a springboard to elevate themselves and enrich themselves at the expense of the poor, downtrodden Negro. And messy Jesse Williams was using the exact same plan to elevate himself. He was going to present himself as this real brother who was so concerned about the black community. And he was going to talk about his teaching and how much he cared about the black community. He was going to have his black wife as window dressing for this cruise, and he was going to use this and his BET Minstrel Award to try to use it as a springboard to elevate himself to a higher level of social status in the black community and a higher level of social status in Hollywood. And that was the game your Messy Jesse Williams would have run. Unfortunately, Messy Jesse Williams' ego got in the way. Now, your Messy Jesse Williams thought that he was going to be this big star, and he thought he was going to go on to a level of stardom and greatness on the same level of a Denzel Washington, a Wesley Snipes, and a Samuel L. Jackson. And your Messy Jesse Williams' head got really big because instead of him trying to stay quote unquote real, he got caught up in the fantasy of Hollywood. And because he got caught up in the fantasy of Hollywood, he could not see that he hadn't even inked a contract for a developmental movie. So here was a guy who was still on Shonda Rhimes' Grey's Anatomy, and he had big stars in his eyes. And because he had big stars in his eyes, he decided to go out here and have two biracial children by his black wife and try to close out the business deal with his black wife, because when it comes down to the Afro-American Negro female, that's what she really wants, are those mixed children. And he decided he was going to close out the business deal of his marriage and then go on to stardom and be the next Denzel Washington, the next Samuel L. Jackson, the next Jamie Foxx, or the next Will Smith, because all of those Afro-American Negro females out there, they were going to get mesmerized by those crystal blue eyes and that creamy white skin. And because once they looked into those crystal blue eyes, they would be completely spellbound by this man, and they would believe anything he said, and they would go watch any movie that your Messy Jesse Williams would be in. And that's what happened to your Messy Jesse Williams to create the hot mess that he's in right now. He got completely delusional regarding Hollywood. He got caught up in the Hollywood fantasy, and he decided that because he was a part of the Hollywood in crowd, what he was going to do was get into the Hollywood circle and be with the white people many of these Afro-American Negroes deify and worship. And because he had given his wife those two biracial children that she had wanted, he was going to end their marriage contract, divorce his wife, and then go on to be a part of Hollywood with Minka Kelly, a white woman. Because when it comes down to the Afro-American Negro, they deify and worship white females, and they want to be in the presence of white females. And Jesse Williams thought that since he had arrived, he no longer needed to be with the Negro female because the God that he served was there and ready to give him her blessings. Now, your Jesse Williams, the big mistake that he made was not doing like a Queasy 100 said and hashtag hot ragging this Minka Kelly. He decided he was going to divorce his wife and have a relationship with this Minka Kelly. And he only did that because, again, he deified and worshipped the white female, and he thought because he was going to be in the presence of God, he no longer needed to be with the Negro female. Unfortunately, what happened to your Messy Jesse Williams was he was starting to lay out the core of his hot mess, because what he didn't understand was that as he was trying to divorce his wife, she was going to take him to divorce court to show him the full power of white supremacy. Now, when it comes down to Jesse Williams, he just didn't understand that in the court system, he was still going to be seen as a Negro. Yes, in Hollywood, he was considered to be a possible star due to that crystal blue eyes and that creamy white skin, but in actuality, in white supremacist America, Jesse Williams was still a Negro. And because he was a Negro with Negro children, the Negro female could destroy him in court. And once he went to divorce court, he found he was in for the rudest of rude awakenings, because in that divorce court, the judge took half of Messy Jesse's assets and gave his wife spousal support, and now she's getting child support. So your Messy Jesse Williams, what he did in trying to elevate himself at the expense of the black community was get the worst payback at the end of the day. And the reason why he got the worst payback in the end of the day was because, as it says in the Bible, you will reap what you sow later than you sow, and you will reap greater than what you sow. And what your Messy Jesse Williams did was he reaped a bitter harvest on himself because in his hubris, he thought he could exploit the black community, he thought he could use the black community, and he thought he could take advantage of all of the Negro masses with his creamy white skin and his crystal blue eyes, and he thought he could run a game on the black community, but at the end of the day, he wound up getting a game run on him because he didn't understand at the end of the day he's still a Negro, and albeit a light-skinned Negro, and he was just finding out how black he actually is. Now, your Messy Jesse Williams thought because he had arrived, he could go get this Minka Kelly, and he was going to go to the next level, not understanding that he had just fallen into a trap, because your Minka Kelly was nothing more than a low-tier white female, and she was nothing to even consider throwing away things that were more important like a marriage and a family for. And that's what's really sad about your Messy Jesse Williams and his hot mess, because had he did a hashtag hot rag, he might have possibly still had his family, he might have still had his children, but he threw it all away, all because he saw and got spellbound by Minka Kelly's white skin and her crystal blue eyes, and what happened to him was he threw away everything that he had for something that was absolutely worth nothing. And instead of your Messy Jesse Williams winding up being blessed by staying with his family, all he's in right now is a hot mess.